Hello everyone. In this last section we're going to go ahead and cover some of the resources and libraries of Corona. So if you go ahead and go to Corona's website, coronalabs.com/resources, we're going to go ahead and look through some of the resources available from Corona. The first one, and the one that you'll be using very often, is the documentation. So if you go ahead and click on this, you'll be taken to the docs.coronalabs.com. This is a great website and a great link for all sorts of Corona-related needs. The first thing we're going to go to is guides. If you click on guides, it'll take you to a list of links for various tutorials and guides for pretty much everything related to Corona. If you ever feel that you need additional information for anything that we don't cover in these tutorials, this is a great place for it. We will be covering the majority of this content in the next few chapters. There's also the Corona University, which is some more videos related to specific categories of tutorials. Some of these are really helpful, and even as an advanced user, you'll find that you'll still need to go through quite a few of these. And lastly, but certainly not least, is the API. So this is a page that you will be on quite frequently, and we're going to go through some of the items on here and get some hands-on examples of it. This is the reference of all of the Corona SDK calls. So this is everything that you might be able to do specifically to Corona. So this doesn't cover the Lua aspect of the language. This is just things specifically in the Corona SDK that you can call. So they're all various functions and variables that are of use to you. We're going to go through a lot of these in Chapter 3 in much greater detail. But for now, we're just going to look through some of the more commonly used libraries. So the first thing that we're going to go through is display and graphics. So go ahead and click on display. Display covers quite a bit of things regarding putting something on the screen. One of the most commonly used sections are the functions. This is used to create various things: circles, text, rectangle, images. So these are the things that we used in our Hello World example earlier. So if we go ahead and click on display.newCircle, you'll see that every function, every link in here takes you to a page that describes it in greater detail. So as you saw with our circles that we made earlier, we did display.newCircle, and then we had to give it the X center, Y center, and radius, as it shows here. And as you see in this API reference, it shows what that is and explains each item that the function asks for. So this is a great way to see what you need to put into any function or any call to make it work. So let's go ahead and look through some of the other items available in display. So these are basic properties of display. So if you ever want to find out the size of your screen, if you want to find out what the frames per second is, any information like that is available in these properties in display. We also have a lot of display functions we haven't used yet, such as creating sprites, creating a snapshot of the screen, a group object, which is very important and we'll cover much later. So there's a lot of available options in the display section. You'll be using this quite frequently. I would recommend at your own time to look through some of these and see what they do and familiarize yourself with them. So now that we're through display, we're going to go ahead and look at graphics. Graphics is a smaller set, but what it covers is gradients, masks, and image sheets. So the one that you'll use most often is masks. If you saw before the flashlight tutorial that we did, that used a mask that showed or covered an area of an image. So masks are quite helpful. Gradients as well. If you want a color change from one to the other in a smooth transition, you'd use a gradient. So that is display and graphics. Next we're going to go ahead and take a look at audio. So the audio library is as it sounds for all things audio related. So this allows you to create sounds, to pause them, play them, rewind them. A lot of these are pretty understandable just based on their name, what they're going to do. And we will have in a later chapter a hands-on example of making audio. So with that said, let's take a look at media. Media is for all things video related. So media, you can capture a photo or a video from the screen, you can play a sound or video, any type of media content, even something that's not directly inside the app that you make, you would use with media. So you can even get photos from a separate source from the app, so the photo library or the music saved on the person's phone. Alright, that's media. So now we're going to look at the native and system libraries. So native's quite useful. This is for using any UI or any systems that are native to that particular OS. So if you want the keyboard to pop up with a text box to fill in for the user, and you want to use the built-in iPhone or Android text and keyboard, then you would use native. This is also great for finding out various information from outside of the actual app itself. So if you want to set something such as your indicators, set various properties for your app, you do that here. And now let's take a look at system. So system is yet again for the actual system, the operating system of the device and the hardware system. So a lot of these things are related to the hardware and software on the device. So you can set things such as the accelerometer's level of detail, you can get information such as the timer, you can cancel notifications. There's a lot of stuff that we'll go through later regarding system and native. Next up is physics. So as it sounds, physics is for all things related to the simulation of physics in an app. Sometimes it's not necessary to use a full physics system. In fact, this is generally used for things that are very much a physics game or physics based. If you just want a ball bouncing around on the screen, you really don't need the whole physics structure for that. And we're going to have a tutorial in Chapter 3 that deals with physics directly. Right, and now we're going to take a look at timers and transitions. So timers, as it sounds, is basically to set up a timer that when activated can do something. So it's a timer.performWithDelay will create a timer that activates a specific section of code when it expires. This is very useful for setting up things to activate later on in your game or later on in your app. And transitions we saw earlier in our tutorial for Hello World. But transitions are to move specific variables from one to another. So this could be used to move an object from one place to another. It could be used to make it fade in and out so it disappears and reappears. You can scale the object. There's plenty of things that you'll be able to do with transitions later. So that's the libraries, as you can see. And there's plenty more that we're not covering right now that we'll be showing in our later chapters. Feel free to take a look at all of those and try to get the hang of using this API page. Thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you in Chapter 2.